Today we're going to do a follow-up video on a planting that we did last summer. So it's been about a year or so since we got in and landscaped this garden bed here in front of the rental house. And things are filling in quite nicely. The perennials and shrubs are taking hold. We have some annuals in here just to give a consistent pop of color. But let's go ahead and take a look at how the plants are doing and exactly what plants we planted in this small little garden design. So this little area here kind of has three little planter boxes, I guess you would say. So not really big enough to put anything that would be lasting from year to year. So this is a good spot for us to do kind of a tiered garden. And what we have in the top tier is the Kufia vermillionaire. There's also some of the Mexican feather grass. And the next layer down, we've got Gerber daisies, and I'm loving these Gerber daisies this year because they just consistently keep blooming all summer long. A lot of times with Gerber daisies, you'll find that they kind of cycle through. And then the next little planter tier is the sun patience. This is the compact, I think this is the purple candy, and just look how vibrant and how gorgeous they are. Now, one thing in this garden bed, there is drip irrigation in here. So we've got kind of that drip line that runs through here to get this space watered. Obviously, the landscape here, not the landscape, but actually the grass is not on underground, and it looks just terrible. So we have to make sure that we keep the water going in these beds to keep the plants looking really nice. Just to the left there of the planter box is where all the controls are for the water spigot and all the timers and stuff. And that's what we have set in here, is so that the timers just automatically let these drippers go off when it's needed. Got some Pennisetum rubrum grass there to kind of hide that mess behind there just a little bit. And as we head through the front, you can see how there's kind of like little pockets. It goes in, it swoops out, it goes in, it swoops out. So we kind of took that in mind when we were designing what was going in this garden. There's a bump out there, which is a bay window to the living room. So we'll take a look to see what we planted under that bump out as well. So in this little area, we have some of the Paint the Town dianthus. Those are blooming earlier in the season and look just so pretty. They're kind of fizzled and faded right now, not a lot going on. Behind those is a Pugster blue butterfly bush, and I see a lot of buds on there, so that should be blooming in no time. Just before that, this here is an Iberis, which was the spring color. So that was one thing too, we want to make sure that this bed had color throughout the season. An ilex there, I think that is the glow pop. And then on either side of the bay window, we kind of created a symmetrical look. So you can see there's a coneflower tucked in the back there. In front of the bay window is the boxwood. This is the North Star boxwood, so they're going to stay fairly small and not going to get too much taller than where that bay window bumps out. In front of the boxwood this year, we did diamond snow euphorbia, which is just a really nice and airy white annual. I think last year we put bubble gum in there or something. But that's what's nice with this bed, is you have your staple plants with your perennials and shrubs, but there's also a lot of opportunity to kind of tuck in some annuals if you want to mix in the color a little bit. We have the Surefire white begonia, so you can see how that's situated there in front of the coneflower, as it is on this side as well. So we kind of created a symmetrical look with taking this bump out in mind. Then as we continue down a little further into the garden bed, there's another Pugster butterfly bush that's got its blooms or buds waiting to bloom. Got another ilex there in the back. The ilex look like they're a little bit dry, so I don't know if they got a little bit of wind burn here. It's very windy. Or if it's too much sun for them. I don't know, I'll have to show that to Rod and see what he thinks. But something is definitely kind of going on with that ilex, where there's a lot of kind of dry at the top there. Also a few more of the white Surefire begonias tucked in. They look so pretty. They're a nice crisp clean white, and they stay nice and fresh. Tucked behind there, we've got a hydrangea. Oh, and it's doing so nice. It looks like it's a Let's Dance Can Do hydrangea. A lot of buds and a lot of blooms. So the blooms you're seeing, that's the first bloom cycle. And then the buds that are there, that's starting off with the newer growth. So this is going to continue to just keep putting on more flowers as new growth emerges. We have the Firelight Tidbit hydrangeas in here as well. Typically these firelight tidbits would be blooming later on in the season, but we didn't have any last year to poke in here. So we grew some specifically in the greenhouse to plant. So these are ahead of schedule because they were grown in the greenhouse. So typically we would be seeing the pink hydrangea blooming first, and then about a month or so later, we would start seeing the firelight tidbit bloom. Usually that would be around August or so here in West Michigan. This is a Zone 6A garden, so all of the plants we're showing here are plants that are hardy in Zone 6A. We also have 2 spirea. This is the double plate doozy spirea, one on either side of this grouping of the bubblegum Vista, or the Vista bubblegum supertunias. The spireas have already bloomed. You can see it's got like the spent flowers showing there. But even though this is done blooming right now, there's still a lot of cool color from the new growth. And then also too, with that new growth, it's going to put on more flowers again later on in the season. I love the Supertunia Vista bubblegum because it's such an aggressive petunia. I think they have 3 of them planted in here, and it's just creating just a mass of color in this garden bed. So even though there's a lot of things that are kind of cycling depending on where we're at in the season, those bubblegum keep a consistent bright poke color, as do those sun patiens that are down there closer to the driveway. I think it'd be really cool if we line this whole thing with sun patiens. That would just be spectacular, especially up against this gorgeous blue siding. As we make our way out to the edge of the house, originally there was a big tall tree here on the corner, which a lot of people do, kind of a tree on the corner of the house. But we didn't want anything that big. So we ripped everything out of this landscape. But we wanted to keep this area just a little bit more under control and a little bit smaller with what we planted here. We have the back and black sedum, which will be some fall color. Behind it, we have the yellow, my darling, cone flowers. And those two, I love the blue and yellow together. I know there's some Michigan fans out there that are going, yes, blue and yellow. That looks really nice. So what did we choose for the corner of this planting? We chose the lilac, the Bloomerang dark purple lilac. This is only going to get 4 foot tall, so not a huge plant. And this is a nice reblooming lilac. It's already bloomed earlier in the spring. And let's put some new growth on, and hopefully a little bit later on, we'll be seeing a little bit of a light rebloom. And that's true of the Bloomerang lilacs, is their first spring bloom is going to be the most prolific, where you're going to see the biggest show of color. And then throughout the summer, you'll see what I like to call kind of spitter spatter blooms. And that's nice because you really don't see lilacs that bloom throughout the summer. Then on the corner here, we have the allium. This is either Millennium or Serendipity. And we planted here in mass because we wanted this to be a real pop of color once they start blooming as well, especially since that lilac is going to be done blooming or is done blooming. We wanted something that would really draw attention to the corner edge of this bed. So once those alliums start blooming, that's going to be really cool with the purple whimsical looking blooms. We didn't just cut it off here at the front. We headed towards the back as well with a few more things. We repeated that back and black sedum. As you notice, there's a lot of kind of consistency throughout this garden bed where we have a symmetrical look. Symmetrical is kind of my theme when we plant, is having things that are very consistent and clean looking. Tucked around the back here, we have another hydrangea. This one I believe is, it's either Candu or Ariba. Look at that gorgeous full bloom. This is a big leaf hydrangea, and this is one that blooms off of old and new growth, so it's a very reliable bloomer. And then we tucked in a few armeria just to kind of give us some consistent little dabbles of color. This is a long blooming perennial, and you can see there's a lot of spent blooms, but you can also see, even though there's spent blooms, that they do consistently send up fresh ones as well. So because it's just a nice low growing border plant, it worked really well in this location. We tucked in another butterfly bush there, another pugster butterfly bush, because it's very compact, only gets about 2 foot tall. And of course, just another little coneflower to add a special little splash of color. So I think that this bed is coming in very nicely. We didn't lose anything that we planted last year, which is always a question. You know, you feel like, you're always going to lose something, but we didn't. And so that's really a wonderful success story. And I'm just excited to watch as this continues to fill out and grow as the years go on. If you have any questions or comments on what we did here in this landscape, please feel free to leave them below. I know oftentimes people are looking for simple and easy landscaping or foundation plantings, such as this. So maybe some of the plants that we used in our foundation planting will give you some inspiration in what you might be able to use in yours. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.